So today we're going to take a look at Lanolin Undercoating after 6 years going into year 7. What does it look like on the bottom of this 2017 Colorado? So the first vehicle that we're going to talk about here, this is my dad's 2017 Colorado diesel. He bought this in October, I believe, of 2017. And I've coated this truck every single year, and I have video documentation of what this truck looks like every single year on YouTube. So you can go back and watch me spray this truck when it had 300 miles on it, and you can watch me spray it every single year to see what it looks like now. So let me switch trucks. We're gonna get his up on the lift, and we're gonna take a look at it.
October 17th, 2023.
This is how we're gonna start the video?
Yeah.
Not like, hey, how's it going? You know, this is what you're doing, or...
No. All right, so this is fluid film year 6 going into year 7 on a 2017 Colorado. This vehicle has been coated every single year since 2017. And it is now October 17th, 2023.
Yeah, so I coated the vehicle when it had 300 miles on it. It has about 50,000 miles on it, and we're just sort of taking a look at what it looks like and how everything is holding up. Last year I sprayed this thing with Blaster Surface Shield, and I'll be honest, I'll take you guys around and show you. I'm probably not going to spray it this year because, quite frankly, I don't think it needs it.
I don't see anything rusting at all.
So I may just hit like the front of the axle, the cross members, stuff like that, high wash off areas.
Here.
Yeah.
But it's pretty well coated.
Kind of like I told you guys last year, it's like at a certain point, there's just diminishing returns with this. So whether that coating is a 1/4 inch thick or a 1/2 inch thick, the coating is going to perform the exact same way. So at a certain point, you're just kind of throwing money away, especially if you still have a good oily coating on the vehicle and you're not showing any rust. At a certain point, it's just not worth coating anymore. The thing is, first few years that you do this, there's no way that you can skip until you have that coating built up on the surface. You know, now that this thing is, you know, 6, almost 7 years old at this point, it's got enough coating on it that, you know, you can kind of take a step back and just sort of look at, okay, does this actually need this year or not?
And where does it need it?
Right. So we'll take you around and show you, but as it has been for what, the past like 3 or 4 years, nothing here has changed. So
just keep driving it.
Right. Spray it once a year and you're limited by the powertrain. You're no longer limited by the rust as long as you're willing to spray the bottom of the vehicle once a year. So in Northern Ohio, that's kind of unheard of.
Never happened.
Right. All right, so we're going to start up front. And as I told you guys, it really doesn't need much of a coating. You know, maybe the bottom of the control arm, stuff like that, I'll touch up. But guys, this truck is what, 6 years old, going into its 7th winter at this point, and nothing on the rockers. There's no rust there at all, no rust on the frame.
I haven't driven in any cornfields lately.
Right. A couple years ago, he was driving it through a cornfield and it scraped a lot of the coating off, but honestly, guys, there's very little reason for me to, you know, keep coating this at this point, just because at a certain point, there's just diminishing returns here. Usually, on a lot of the stuff that I see personally, the first place that develops any sort of rust is usually like the trailer hitch, the spare tire, the stuff that's in the back here that just gets pelted. I don't see anything at all back here, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know what else you could really expect after 6 years, especially being in this environment that it's in. And the nice thing is, like, you can just rub this coating off if you wish, and you can take it off if you please. So everything's still serviceable. It's not like the emergency brake cables are all, you know, covered in black tar undercoating. You know, if I needed to change that emergency brake cable for whatever reason, pressure wash it, hit it with the degreaser,
it'll clean right up, and then you can go ahead and pull everything apart. But that's the biggest advantage of this stuff over something like Z-Bart or any of those coatings that harden up over time. You know, moisture just gets underneath that stuff and typically makes the rust problem worse because you just trap the moisture between the metal and the coating itself. With these lanolin and oil-based products, there's no way for that oil or the water, I should say, to get between the metal and the oil. The oil is constantly wicking that moisture away. So this is what it looks like, guys. Honestly, it's to the point now that I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep shooting an update video on this truck. I'm probably going to do one more next year, just because there's nothing else that I can do to kind of prove to you guys that this stuff actually works. At a certain point, there's only so many times that I can come out here and shoot this exact same video every year, and it would be different if something was changing and I was having issues or anything like that. But there's literally no problems with this truck whatsoever as far as rust is concerned. There's been no degradation of any sort of bushings. All the rubber brake lines are still in perfectly good shape. You know, nothing under here is softening up. All the ball joint boots, CV boots, stuff like that, nothing is degrading here.
I think the direct line of the tires on each side, and you look, there's very little change. I mean, it just looks like there's more debris that got stuck up on it, and the film did not fall off. It just stayed there, and maybe some debris got stuck on it, but that's about it.
So this vehicle had Surface Shield on it last year. I had coated it with Surface Shield once before, and prior to that I was using fluid film. So it's, all these products work, guys. I don't care what the marketing departments tell you of one of these companies. They all work. They all work extremely well. It's not like if you use fluid film, your car is going to rot out. It's just like if you change your motor oil religiously with Mobil 1 and somebody else uses Pennzoil and they both change their motor oil religiously, you're probably both going to get good results. It's pretty much the exact same concept here. So that's where it's at, guys. I'm not going to coat it again this year. Like I said, I'm just going to touch up what it needs. And overall, not really a whole lot else to say about this thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep, it looks good. Can't deny the facts.
Somebody will. I guarantee you somebody in the comments will tell you you're full of crap.
I won't listen.
All right, so the truck that I'm standing underneath right now is my own 2017 Colorado with the diesel in it. This particular truck has seen one less winter than what my dad's has. So this one has been through 5 years going into 6. And like I said at the beginning, his has been through 6 going into 7. So let me grab the camera and a light and just start walking around and kind of showing you guys what I see. All right, so if you'll remember, last year I did not spray this truck. The year prior, I had sprayed it with Surface Shield. Now, if you guys take a look here, you can still see there's a bunch of Surface Shield still on the bottom of this truck. So in all likelihood, I'm probably not gonna spray it too much this year. I'm just gonna do, you know, like the front of the axle, front of some of the cross members and stuff. Really, overall, it really doesn't need coated anymore. The thing is, guys, what you have to remember here is this vehicle has been coated every single year for 5 years before I started trying to stretch it to go multiple years without spraying. So what I'm saying is, don't go out and buy a brand new vehicle, spray it one time and expect the coating to last 2 or 3 years. It's just not gonna happen. The thing is, I have enough built up on the frame of this thing that wash off really isn't too much of a concern anymore because there's so much dirt and grime embedded in everything. Like even if you take a look at this axle, let me get my light situated. Check this out. There's still a ton of it on the axle. So This portion right here was always my worst area for wash off, and as you guys can see, there's still a ton of it on here. I'm probably gonna touch it up, you know, just because, but overall, I even pulled, you know, the spare back in the back, and you can look around back here and, you know, there's nothing. So overall, guys, like I said, you know, for a truck that is going into its 6th winter in Northern Ohio, and it has absolutely virtually zero rust on it, I don't know what else you could really ask for. Like I've always told you guys, you know, doing this to your vehicle, it's just like changing your motor oil. If you keep up with it, your engine is gonna last a very, very long time. If you try to stretch it and don't maintain it correctly, that's when you're gonna start running into problems. But as long as you're willing to take a look at the bottom of the vehicle and make the determination whether or not it needs touched up, chances are the vehicle is gonna stay in really good shape. So this is what everything looks like, guys. Like I said, I'm just gonna do a quick touch up on it, but overall, it really doesn't need any more product. There is one thing I wanna show you here real quick as well. So if you take a look right here, if you look right in here, you kind of see some marks in the frame and stuff. This was where I took my finger last year and kind of rubbed it around in the coating like that. And you can sort of see where I did that last year. It's still there. I'm not gonna blatantly mislead people like that. So what I'm showing you here, guys, is literally, I didn't touch it last year. It really doesn't need touched a whole lot this year, maybe some minor touch up like I did last year, but overall, not really much to speak of underneath here. One thing I will bring to your attention is I did shoot a video on spraying my exhaust with Cerakote high heat exhaust coating, and it does okay. I don't think it's anything spectacular. If I can get my light to stick somewhere, but you can see, you know, it's just covered in dirt. It does an okay job. Frankly, I don't think it's worth the effort, just because if it's going over top of rust, it's gonna flake, and it's just a lot of labor. And if you look at the frame over here, there's a lot of sandblasting media, because I literally had to sandblast this portion of the exhaust to make this coating stick. So that's why you see the discoloration over here on the frame and the overspray and stuff. But overall, that's what the Cerakote looks like. That's what the rest of the bottom of the truck looks like. Really not a whole lot to really show you guys this year.
So this year, to touch up my truck, I'm just using a Surface Shield aerosol can. I might have used half a can. Just the transmission cross member, the cross member right behind the transmission, and then finally the front of the rear axle is really about all I coated on this thing. Nothing else got touched up.
All right, so that is how I'm leaving everything for this year, guys. Minor touch-ups on my truck, as you saw, and then I did a minor touch-up on my dad's truck. And honestly, between both vehicles, total, cumulatively, I probably sprayed 1 aerosol can. So half an aerosol can on my truck, half an aerosol can on his truck. I'm gonna let it ride for another year and see what happens. So that is where it's at, guys. I do have kind of a big announcement as far as this video series is concerned. Next year is going to be my last year of doing this. And the reason that I'm doing that is really a couple different reasons. First of which, the vehicle that I owned prior to this 2017 Colorado was a 2010 F-150. My 2010 F-150 did not make it 8 years and 80,000 miles before the rockers had holes in them, the bedsides had holes in them, and I had to replace both front and rear steel bumpers because of rust issues. So next year, this video series is going to be year 7 going into year 8. The prior vehicle that I owned to this one didn't even make it to year 8. So at that point, guys, I have a literal direct A and B comparison on 2 different vehicles in the exact same environment with the exact same driver, one treated, one not. So from my standpoint, if you don't believe me at this point, there's nothing else that I can do to convince you that this stuff actually works. So for that reason, next year, last one, I'm done. So that's going to be it for undercoating content in this video. As always, guys, I will have links in the description to the fluid film, to the wool wax, to the surface shield, to the aerosol cans, and as well as the inner cavity adapters and the spray guns if you need any of that stuff. So now we're going to move on to something a little bit different, and I just wanted to say thank you. Guys, believe it or not, and I never anticipated this in my wildest dreams, that the channel actually crossed 100,000 subscribers back in late May, early June, somewhere in that time frame. So like I said, I am super appreciative of everything you guys have done for me. I even got the plaque from YouTube. You know, they sent it right to the door. Super cool. Again, never anticipated I would have something like this, but you guys gave me this. I didn't do it. All I can do is just put the content out there and hope it does well. At the end of the day, that's literally all I can do. You know, think about it, because when I'm recording this video, I have no idea how well it's gonna do or not. All I can do is do the best I can at, you know, shooting it, do the best I can at editing it, and just sort of put it out into the world and hope it goes somewhere. So thank you, because I literally have footage of myself 6 years ago saying, this channel's not gonna go anywhere. I do not have a large YouTube channel at this point, and my channel, quite honestly, will probably never be very large. Because in my expectation, when I started doing this, it was just gonna be me out in my garage, basically trying to find a cheap hobby of me just recording some of the stuff that I had going on. So thank you. So since this channel has crossed 100,000 subscribers, and it's actually almost crossed 125,000 subscribers as of the recording of this footage that you're watching, I thought it would just be beneficial for some of you guys. Obviously, you're interested in the channel a little bit, and I figured I would just tell you guys a little bit, you know, obviously about myself. Up until this point, I've played it very, very close to the vest. And the reason for that is I really don't need 100,000 people knowing, you know, my full name, where I live, where I work, you know, the whole thing. So that's kind of why I've never really said my name on camera, and a few people know it. A lot of people don't. So my name is Andrew. I am 35 years old. I live in Akron, Ohio, and I'm Repair Geek. Basically, the reason that the name Repair Geek came to be was I watch a lot of Erico, South Main Auto Repair. And so much so that I've watched Erico since he had probably about 10,000 subscribers. And I've really seen his channel over, you know, the past 6 or 7 years just, you know, obviously take off. And one of the biggest regrets that I've seen Erico have, and he's said it multiple times on camera, is the fact that he does not have an alias. And what he means by that is he used the real name of his business, and he uses his real name on camera. So it's real easy to find Erico if you want to find Erico. So I sort of, you know, stuck that away in my head for the day that I created my channel. And basically what happened was, if you go way back in my videos, the first video that I ever did was putting my lift together. I bought the lift with no way of actually knowing how I was going to edit any of the footage, how I was going to shoot it or anything. And I was basically sitting on the couch creating the channel, and Repair Geek popped into my head, and that's what it became. So that's pretty much the name I've ran with for the past 6 years, and it's worked out fine. That's honest to God, that's probably the best piece of advice I ever got from anybody on YouTube, because I never envisioned what this channel is at this point. You know, my wildest expectation for this channel when I started was maybe 10,000 subscribers. And like I said, I'm close to 125,000 at this point. So that's my advice to you guys. If you're looking to start a channel, create an alias, because nobody needs to know all your information. So now you know my actual name, it's Andrew. But with that said, I was just gonna give you guys kind of like a brief overview of, you know, some of the education that I have, things I've done, things like that. And part of the reason I haven't really said any of this stuff before on camera is, frankly, most of the people that I've come across that like to talk about themselves really don't know their ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to working on stuff. What I mean by that is the people that sit there and go, I've done this and I've done that and da 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 da, you put a wrench in their hand and 9 times out of 10 they don't know what the hell they're doing. So I really don't like talking about myself. I'd rather just set up the camera, record me doing something, and have you guys form your own opinion. But just to give you guys a little bit of background on myself, I went to junior and senior year of high school. I took auto mechanics junior, senior year of high school. I went to Lorain County Joint Vocational School, and after Joint Vocational School, I went to University of Northwestern Ohio out in Lima. I have an associate's degree in auto technology. I have an associate's degree in diesel technology, and I also have a certificate in alternative fuels. In addition to that, I also took hydraulics as an elective. You know, I probably could have added a couple more classes and even got an ag certificate if I wanted, but at a certain point, there's just diminishing returns, you know, versus shelling out all that money. So at that time, I graduated about 2010, and what happened about 6 months before I graduated was GM and Chrysler, if you remember, went bankrupt in like 2009, and they had to get those bailouts from the government. So as a condition of that bailout money that the government gave GM and Chrysler, the government stepped in and said, okay, any dealer that isn't doing like X amount of income, that is an underperforming dealer, if you will, you have to cut the ties with that dealer in order for us to give you this money. So what ended up happening was GM started pulling out of a bunch of dealers, Chrysler started pulling out of a bunch of dealers so they could get their bailout money from the government. Well, that left a bunch of car dealers with no cars to sell, therefore the dealerships would go under. So all the mechanics that worked at these dealerships that were going under, guess what? They got put out of work, and they got the mechanic market, at least in my area, northeastern Ohio, sort of got flooded with mechanics that their dealership had closed. So there's all these guys out in the marketplace that have 5 years experience. They've got $25,000 to $50,000 worth of tools, and they're looking to wrench at a dealership. I graduated 6 months after all that happened. So literally what would happen was I would walk into a dealer with, you know, the 2 associate's degrees, the certificate, and I think I had like 4 ASDs at that point. They would literally look at me and go, I might have an opening for you on the lube rack, making $7 to $8 an hour in 6 months. So other than wait around to do nothing for 6 months, what I ended up doing was I basically got into industrial maintenance. So I worked in an industrial maintenance facility. I'll tell you guys, it was actually Gojo. If you get, you know, Gojo hand cleaner, I worked there for 8 years, and I fixed pretty much all their bottling equipment. So if you ever watch How It's Made and they're bottling something, that's pretty much the kind of equipment that, you know, I would work on a daily basis. I'll put some clips in here so you guys can see, you know, exactly what the type of stuff I worked on. This isn't Gojo, it's just some clips that I found on the internet, but the stuff's the same. It doesn't really matter if you're bottling beer or you're bottling soap, the bottling process is pretty much the same. So I ended up leaving Gojo in 2020, basically due to the pandemic and getting a lack of time off. And like I told you guys last year, I now work at Blaster. So that is like the last 15 years of my life in a nutshell. And in addition to that, what I haven't told you guys either is what my wife does. And the reason that that's sort of relevant, if you guys notice, I test a lot of coatings on this channel. So I've tested, you know, something like over 30 different kinds of undercoating. I've tested paint before. I do a lot of work with rust mitigation, paint, undercoating, things like that. And there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is my wife is a coatings chemist. My wife is a coatings chemist with over a decade of experience at this point. So it's extremely easy for me to come out here and shoot a coatings test when you're married to a coatings chemist. It only makes sense. My wife has worked at a paint manufacturer that manufactures paint for OEM vehicles. She did not work with GM products. She worked with other products. I can't say who she worked for just because I really don't need 100,000 people knowing where my wife works. And she did that for about 5 years, and now she works at a coatings additive company. So what happens is a lot of these coatings companies that manufacture paints and things like that go to my wife's company and say, okay, we want an additive that's going to make our coating dry quicker. So my wife essentially formulates additives that makes coatings dry quicker, make sure yellow is more vibrant, things like that. So that's kind of, you know, me in a nutshell, if you will. So I'm sure some of you guys are curious how somebody can go from repairing an automotive AC system to speaking about undercoating spray guns, you know, back and forth. Well, that's how, is because I'm married to a coatings chemist with 10 years worth of experience. So that's pretty much all I got for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the little look into my backstory a little bit. But as always, guys, if you guys like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content, go down and hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.